My name's Marcia, and you all can just, I got names on both sides of me, so wherever way I'm looking. And I want to thank you all for coming. Just, you all know, but for their edification, GD-RIA has been around since 1980. We are a nonprofit education organization. We teach people how to invest in real estate, stay current with the latest rules and regs, keep ourselves out of trouble. We meet twice a month here, not particularly in this room. This room is new for us tonight. We also have several what we call focus groups that meet throughout the month on a special specific topic. We've got about 300 memberships. Most of our people are 2 people per membership, husband and wife, spouse, significant other, whatever. So you all know that. They didn't. Tonight we're going to be meeting the candidates. I'm going to be the moderator. And again, I'm just Marcia. I'm the only one around. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, 30 seconds, and I'm going to do a mental 30-second. And I know some of you from past, if you start running late, I'll call you on it. All right, Mark. But at least introduce yourself. What position are you running for? And 30 seconds. And we'll start with you, Glenn.
All right, thank you, Marcia. My name is Glenn Otto. I am currently an at-large council member in the city of Huber Heights. I'm running for re-election. This will be my 2nd term. About me in 30 seconds. I don't like talking about me to begin with, but I came into office with a primary goal of resident communication, city interaction with our residents, which I felt was very, very lacking at the time. We have improved that, but we still have room to go. I'm glad to be here talking to you folks because housing is a different animal in Huber Heights. We have so much different housing in Huber Heights. You know, we have pretty much every option available. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. And thank you very much, Marcia.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us today. I'm Adrian. I'm running for Inglewood City Council. Part of the reason why I'm running is similar. We don't have much communication within the city and its residents. One of the examples of that was even though the tornado wasn't hit in Inglewood, we didn't notify some of the residents on the part of the city that they were under a boil advisory. So that was one of the issues. The other one was the fact that we have 25 plus vacant buildings and we refuse to work with the county land bank and other services available for us. Other than that, I'm currently working at Right State in Marketing. I'm also a mentor for students with various issues such as financial aid and counseling if needed. And I really want to be a new voice for the city. We've only had 3 opposed elections since 2003, and there are family ties on the council already. So, new voice for the city, and look forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Ms. Pickett?
My name is Gabriela Pickett, and I am running for Dayton Public School Board because I want to further my ability to help the community. I have a PhD in international education, and I've done a lot of research in terms of different models of education around the world, looking for best practices. And I'm also a mother of 6 children, one of them autistic, and I've been an advocate and an activist for 30 years, 10 in Texas and 20 in Ohio.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Good evening. My name is Will Smith, and I'm running for a seat on the Dayton Public School Board as well. I'm running because I'm a child of Dayton, a product of Dayton Public Schools. I have my kids are in Dayton Public Schools. I've been a community organizer, and I've been dedicated to the city of Dayton. And I believe that if we're going to move Dayton forward, we're only going to be as strong as our schools. And I believe that we have to raise our accountability and transparency. We have to do more about working with the community and bringing out the genius that we have in the community so we can create a culture of high goals and high achievement in spite of the difficulties that we face in Dayton. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Anderson?
Greetings. My name is Craig Anderson. I'm currently running for Harrison Township Trustee. That is in North Dayton. Some of the reasons why I am running for Harrison Township is township identity, our drug crisis, opiate epidemic, and to restore and rebuild Harrison Township. Harrison Township was devastated by the 2019 Memorial Day tornado, and statistics say that it's going to take 10 years to rebuild and for everyone to get back on track. So our goals is to be in communication with our residents and strive to rebuild and to help our residents continue to get back on their feet.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Pete Williams, and I'm running for mayor of Riverside. My wife and I are proudly raising our 3 sons in the city where they go to school. I'm the only candidate for mayor in the city of Riverside that has not been on council or currently serving on council, and in most cases it's for 12 years plus. So to echo what one of our other candidates tonight said, it's time for a new direction and new faces. I believe the city of Riverside is lacking in the opportunities for economic development and growing our income tax base. We're lacking in areas where we can grow jobs and promote workforce. I look to our neighbors to the east in Beaver Creek, and I see our neighbors in downtown Dayton doing very well, and I feel like Riverside has just been left out of a lot of the economic recovery we've seen nationally in the last 5 years. So I really feel that my experience with a background in economic development, a background including serving on task force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and with the Dayton defense community, that I'm the new face for Riverside to move us in the direction that we need to. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stone?
Yeah, good evening. My name is Bob Stone. I'm a 66-year resident of the city of Beaver Creek, although it wasn't a city back in those days. And I'm serving my 16th year in public office of one sort or another. And I'm a candidate to remain the mayor of Beaver Creek for another 4 years. My background is I'm married. I have 1 son. I happen, some of you that may have used me in years past, I used to own and operate Home Buyer Consultants, which is a whole house inspection company. I was the first in the state of Ohio, established back in 1979. So this is, I'm retired from that now, but so I have a close tie with the real estate industry throughout the area. And Beaver Creek, I love Beaver Creek. I enjoy the direction we've been going. And so I'm a candidate to stay as Beaver Creek's mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Van?
I'm Julie Dan, and I've been in Beaver Creek for 35 years, and I have also served Beaver Creek City Council for 16 years, and I'm a committed public representative. I've got a lot of leadership experience throughout Beaver Creek and the region. Many people have asked me to serve as in leadership positions on their boards, and I've led or planned or directed many projects, so I get things done. I'm worried about financial accountability, and if our citizens really understand the budget and what we try to get done and what we don't get done because we don't have money. So I'm trying to improve that accountability so that we define the quality of services that we're going to provide. I am also worried about the tornado. Like was said, oftentimes it takes 10 years to recover, and we need to have a plan of action where the city is a partner with the residents in those neighborhoods to do the best we can to help them recover. And also, we are in a financial crisis because we have over $200 million worth of backlogged repairs and maintenance projects that are listed in our capital improvements budget, and we don't have funding established. We don't have a revenue source that helps us do that.
Thank you. Mr. Bales?
Thank you. My name's Pete Bales. I'm running for Beaver Creek City Council. I'm a lifelong resident of Beaver Creek. I live with my wife, Amanda, and I have 2 kids. Both attend Beaver Creek schools. For the last 24 years, I've served local government, both in Beaver Creek and in Fairborn, most recently as the Assistant City Manager in Fairborn. And I want to focus on keeping Beaver Creek affordable. I want to make sure our property values stay high. And I'd like to work with the council to find ways to increase revenues to the city so that we can afford to recover from the tornado and offer business incentives. And I would also like to try and relieve some of the property tax burden that our citizens are facing.
Thank you. Mr. Kern?
My name's Charles Curran. Lived in Beaver Creek since 2009. My past legislative experience consists of the following. I was a city commissioner in Dayton for 9 years. I was state senator for the 6th senatorial district and a county commissioner for some 24 years. I hope that what I bring to council is my legislative experience and interest in that area. I'm concerned about maintaining our really fine park system, to see that improved all the time. It's really one of the big pluses of Beaver Creek. As many of you know, we operate on property tax levies, so it restricts somewhat what we can do. So we have to be looking again, as already been mentioned, at certainly alternative revenue sources. One of the things that I'd like to see pursued is the research parkland that we have in Beaver Creek. We have over 400 acres, ladies and gentlemen, that could be a source of property tax revenue increase for us. This land, of course, right now is not, doesn't have the infrastructure that it needs, water, sewer, roads, etc., in order to make it attractive to businesses. And I hope that in my time there that we're able to move that along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dirk?
Good evening, my name is Glenn Dewar, and I'm running for Beaver Creek City Council. I hold a PhD in political science from Kent State University, and I have the privilege of teaching international relations and political science at Cedarville University. My wife and I have been married for 10 years. We have 3 children, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running for City Council. Our son just entered elementary school. Our twin daughters will be there shortly. And that's my first platform, that is to really keep our schools, our emergency services strong, to invest there. I don't believe in blank checks, but I certainly want to work to make sure that those are strong. My second platform is I want to be very business friendly while injecting new ideas. I'm the vice chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals right now, and I echo my colleagues' sentiments. We really need to continue economic development. I want to maintain a very strong and good zoning code. And finally, I want to be a very local candidate. I want to know what's happening for families and neighborhoods, and to be there and to really listen to the community so that I can be a fresh voice on the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Hi, I'm Clint Allen, and I'm running for Fairborn City Council. I'm excited to be here tonight to just share my thoughts and views. I'm a 28-year Air Force veteran. And it was absolutely an awesome time serving in the Air Force. I currently am the Lions Club, Fairborn Lions Club president, which is the largest service club in our city, about 75 members, and we're getting ready to celebrate our 75th anniversary, so it's awesome. My platform for Fairborn, A City in Motion, is to communicate. I think one of the candidates said that earlier tonight, that communication is key. It is absolutely key that we communicate and we fight for feedback. So my hope is that when I'm elected, that I'm able to open the doors and allow others to come in, sit down and collaborate. Side by side, we can come up with new ideas, new visions, new ways of doing things so that the city can continue to grow and be prepared for the growth, the secondary and tertiary effects of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Azarati?
Hi, I'm David Esrati, and I have a little story to tell.
Mr. Azarati, you got 30 seconds.
That's fine. Everybody else has had a minute.
There's more than that.
I bought a house for $14,500 in South Park, and I started to fix it up. Next thing you know, the city took me to court. They didn't like the way I was fixing things up. So did that stop me? No, it made me want to run for office. And I bought a few more properties and fixed them up. And I've seen South Park go up and down, but right now we have houses selling for $210,000 that somebody bought for $25,000 3 years ago. We have houses that were sold for $10,000 selling for $85,000. We have a little 638 square foot cottage that they're asking $149,000 for. I don't know if they'll get it, but it's really nice. The rest of the city is not in that kind of shape, and there's a reason for it. And if we keep re-electing the same people that got us where we are, we're going to stay where we are instead of what happened in my community. So I've got to tell you, one of the biggest problems we have in Montgomery County is we have way too many politicians and way too many political subdivisions and way too many economic development directors and zoning administrators and fire chiefs and police chiefs and school boards, and that costs all of us way more than it should. And we need somebody who can not only fix Dayton, but make it so that people will want to work together and get to some sort of regional government the way Columbus has, the way Indianapolis has, and the way Louisville has. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Turner?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shanice Turner Sloss, and I'm a candidate for Dayton City Commission. I also will share with you that I am a former City of Dayton employee. I worked for the City of Dayton for 7.5, 8 years in the Department of Planning and Community Development, and I'll share with you quite candidly and honestly, that's the reason why they don't want me to run, because I understand the inner workings of government. I manage the city's state and federal funds, and we need to do better than what we're currently doing. I'm asking people to be intentional, and I'm asking them to vote differently this election cycle. We need clear processes. We need to understand and have the ability to question the decisions that are being made in the City of Dayton. We also need transparency. We need to know and have, again, an understanding and see the results and the implementation of how our dollars are being spent in the City of Dayton. We need to also have accountability. Accountable, as your next City of Dayton Commissioner, I will be accountable for the Dayton residents in each and every one of their neighborhoods, the 65 neighborhoods that we have in the City of Dayton, and to make sure that we do, in fact, have equitable development throughout the City of Dayton. I'm excited to be here. And even though I'm last, certainly not least, it is refreshing to hear all of the things that we have in common up on this dais this evening. So look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have an honored guest with us tonight. I think my GDRIA members know. GDRIA belongs to a state organization, the Ohio Real Estate Investors Association. Our Ohio organization is very active politically. We have our legislative director from the state here, Dan Acton.
Thank you very much. If I could, I'll take 30 seconds. I might squeeze into David's 1 minute. But to the panel, thank you very much for attending tonight. It means a great deal to us as an organization, both locally and statewide, to involve and engage you folks. As many of you know, it's been spoken to, the economic benefits of real estate investors. We're the folks that have put millions of dollars back into your community, reinvested those dollars through tough times and the good times that we're having now. We have 13 local chapters throughout Ohio, over 2,000 members strong. We do have, I'm one of the legislative director for REIA, and we have some full-time lobbying staff in Columbus. So if there's some things we can work with you on, please feel free to reach out to me. It'd be an honor to work with you, and the best of luck to you tonight. Thank you. While I'm at it, I would like to give Sham Reddy a hand for helping putting this thing together. It's not easy, so thank you. Thanks for putting that together.
Thank you, Dan. What we're going to do, you all have got note cards. Write down your questions.
Index cards.
Index cards if you need more, and pens. Sham's got them. I've got, Sham's got a question for you to get you started. 2 minutes for an answer from each of you.
This time I'll have a sign.
30 seconds.
All right.
Okay.
My question is, in the position you're running for, what would you stop, or start, or change in the position you're running for make it better for our citizens? Just take one item that you want either stop, or start, or change.
Mr. Otto, we'll start with you again.
Oh, I just love being first.
Well, you want me to switch it around?
No,
Ms. Turner, you want?
No, you're fine. No, you're good.
Okay.
Okay, we'll reverse.
Think about it. All right. So real quick, I'll be very quick. Give me 30 seconds. That's all I need. Stop giving away our tax, if you will, tax credits to a number of the developers downtown. We've seen a lot of great development downtown in our core. We understand the importance of our core, right? We know that we have to make sure that it's thriving, but we also have to create a balance. And what we've been doing for the past couple of years in that recovery for our downtown area is we're essentially robbing from our school district. Not only are we robbing from our school district, we're also robbing from the surrounding neighborhoods in our community. And we understand that in doing so, we have to make it, if you will, attractive to do business in the city of Dayton. But there are means and ways that we can do that. So one of the things that I'm proposing as your next City of Dayton Commissioner is that we have community benefit agreements in place, where we have clawbacks that says that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then you and sir will not be able to do business with the city of Dayton. Of course, you cannot just have flowery language in those agreements. You have to have enforcement. And again, that's where I come into play as the next City of Dayton Commission to make sure that we are in fact enforcing that language in that agreement to make sure, again, that all of the development take place downtown, that it is essentially equitable and that others throughout the City of Dayton will benefit. Thank you.
Okay, David?
So, 21 years ago, the state Supreme Court said that the funding structure for Ohio schools was unconstitutional. Nothing's been done about it. I'm not going to be able to fix that. But I got to tell you, there is a serious problem with the city of Dayton with our real estate values. There are houses you can buy any day of the week for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and you could invest in them and fix them up. However, you're not going to be able to get a bank loan. Banks don't want to mess around with anything under $50,000. You're going to have a hard time getting insurance on it, even if you bring the value up. And then once you bring the value up, the person next door all of a sudden is going to have their tax bill go up. Is that fair? Or, like in my case, when the building behind me went into foreclosure, and the bank kicked the people out, and then the building got scrapped, and the value went down, should my property values go down? No. This whole 3-year cycle of reappraising real estate might work fine in Beaver Creek, it might work fine in Centerville or Washington Township, but it doesn't work in Dayton. What you do with these arbitrary readjustments is cause gentrification. You don't cause reinvestment, you cause problems. We have to come up with a different way of formulating tax values, property valuation in a blighted area that has been historically basically marginalized, institutionally marginalized over the years. If we don't fix the structure of how we do things and how we appraise value, what you buy it for should be the value until you sell it. It's the only way to do it in an area the way with the property values that Dayton are. We have to have realistic numbers. We have to fix this in order to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
So, what I want to start is exactly what we're doing right now. When we start these campaigns, we talk to people, we go out, we shake hands, we're hugging folks, we're just engaged with the community. And then, on November 6th, everyone goes back into their houses, closes their doors, and then that's it. I want to change that perception. I want to be able to hear what the citizens have to say. I think the perception is when folks get on council, they're sitting there, they're making decisions, things seem like a rubber stamp. We have to stop that. We have to be able to collaborate. We have to reach people. We have to fight for feedback. Not just get feedback, fight for feedback. That's the only way we're going to make things change. That's the only way that we're going to get a consensus of people heading in the same direction instead of pulling the rope on either ends, trying to figure things out. Let's come to the table. Let's collaborate. Let's talk. Let's discuss. Let's be partners in this journey because change is going to come. And we just have to posture ourselves for change. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Derrick?
Many aspects in the city of Beaver Creek are going well. It's a wonderful city in which to raise a family. I propose to change our marketing system. That is, I propose that we update our current marketing and develop ourselves as a STEM-C city that is focused around science, technology, engineering, math, and computer science. Our elementary school students are learning robotics. I mean, think about that. My kids, 5, 3, and 3, know how to work iPads and get into apps. These things need to be marketed. We have fantastic History Bowl and Quiz Bowl teams. These things should be front and center of our marketing because we're a city of the future already with students leading for the future. And that's what I want to change in the city of Beaver Creek moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Kern?
Yes. As I said a few minutes ago, I have a real interest and concern about this research park land. As you know, Beaver Creek is one of the very few communities that has no income tax. We have to depend on property tax for our operation. That's why I feel it's vital that every large parcel that we have as part of the research park could help to reduce the burden on the property taxes that people pay by us marketing that property. But as I said before, it does require that we put the necessary infrastructure in place, which at the present time is, we're working on it, but it's something that I really see as a central challenge to our community. Thank you.
Mr. Bales?
I agree with Chuck, but I want to take it a little bit of a different step with that. Beaver Creek is the third largest community in the Miami Valley. And we are the largest city in Ohio without an income tax. And it is extremely hard to fund our government operations on the shoulders of our property owners, because we rely 100% on those property taxes to fund all government services. When 75% of the people who work in Beaver Creek do not live there, and they utilize those services. So I think it's important for City Council to work together as a team and in collaboration with the rest of the community and listen to the needs of our citizens to develop those alternate funding opportunities and potentially an earnings tax if it comes to that. But if it does come to that, in my opinion, it would only be if we could roll back some of those property taxes that are hamstringing our community.
Thank you. Ms. Van?
I have always been a neighborhood planner. I care about our neighborhoods. I thought it was really interesting this last week to listen about Wright Patterson projects that half of their employees, half their contractors and whatever, are near retirement age. And they love living here, so I don't think they're all moving to Florida. So they're going to stay in their houses, but we're going to have to find the housing and good neighborhoods for the replacement workers. This is thousands of people to live in, and that a lot of them will choose Beaver Creek. So I want our neighborhoods to be strong. Right now we have $200 million of backlog repairs and maintenance projects that are just listed in our capital improvements project list, and we just kick them down the road every year. We can't keep doing this, so we're going to have to talk about how we're going to pay and what kind of city we want to be. Do we want to have those neighborhoods be great? What are we going to do with this influx of people that are coming in? We need to have a plan, a strategic plan on how we're going to keep our neighborhoods strong and how we're going to accommodate people that want to live there.
Thank you. Mr. Stone?
Thank you. All right. You heard that we're the largest city in the state without an earnings tax. Beaver Creek happens to be the 22nd largest city in the state overall, which surprised me when I found out. But some of the things that we all know that finances are the #1 issue in the city of Beaver Creek. It's when our founding fathers created our charter, they found the wise wisdom to put in there that no, unlike most cities, the state allows you to impose up to 1% income tax. Our founding fathers said no. You will take it to the people, and the people will decide if there will ever be an income tax. So it's been on the ballot before. And I think it's time for the people to have that right again to make that decision. So my philosophy for many years has been Beaver Creek can remain a rural community that's kind of laid back and not have all the luxury items that other communities might have, if that's the way they want to raise the money by property tax. If they want to grow up and be a full-fledged city, then they need to really seriously consider an income tax so that the revenue is there in order for us to do that. The benefit to that is obviously property taxes generally would go down. Sort of the school's taking them, but generally the property tax is going to go down if the city's allowed to have an earnings tax. So we are, over the last few years, we have created some tools to help some of the older neighborhoods, especially the older business districts to create some incentives. We don't have the income tax incentive that some cities do. So we had to create some new tools. They're just now getting on the books, so I hope to carry those out. Lastly, you see the council members here. We will likely have 4 brand new council members, and so I look forward to mentoring those new council members and helping them understand the system, giving them a little history as to how we got to where we are. So that's all I'm planning.
Okay. I don't see anybody out there writing down questions on those index cards. Come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
You got it. This is an interactive thing. We need your question. Mr. Williams?
I get the same question, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So would you
I
start?
didn't know if you're going to switch halfway.
No.
Yeah, head fake. Well, thank you. I think you're going to hear from me a lot of the same themes that you've been hearing from the other candidates tonight, is that resources are not as plentiful as they maybe were in years past, and cities, just like every organization, has to get more expeditious with the funds that they use and how they bring them in and how they deliver them to the citizens. I've been very disappointed living in Riverside the last 5 years, especially driving around, whether I'm coming from Dayton, going home to Riverside, or coming from Beaver Creek, coming home to Riverside, and seeing that we aren't getting the development and the job growth that we're getting in the neighboring cities. I really feel that there doesn't just need to be a good economic development plan for the city of Riverside, there needs to be a plan, period. And I really feel strongly about the skills and connections and network that I bring to the table with the experience I was able to gain working in economic development, working with partners in Greene County, when I served as development director there, working in Beaver Creek and Fairborn and Xenia, cities that were very similar to the one that I want to be mayor of. And looking at ways that we can take vacant property, we can take greenfield sites, and we can take neighborhoods that have maybe that have been around for a long time, or ones that are coming in that are brand new, and figuring out ways to attract people there to live and employers to invest. We are facing a real challenge in Riverside with an infrastructure problem. I heard Ms. Van talk about the I don't know, unfunded mandates of you guys having backed capital projects in Beaver Creek that need to be funded. Well, in a little less than 3 weeks, the residents of Riverside are going to be asked to vote yes or no on an $8 million permanent levy to fund roads. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money in Riverside. It's a lot of money in every city in the Miami Valley. I would love to be able to support a levy like that and make our roads what they should be. I'd feel a lot better about it if I knew that we'd done everything we could on the economic development front to bring jobs in. And I don't mean giveaways. I can already hear David Ezrati glaring down here about economic development. I'm not talking about giveaways. I don't want to do that. I just want to make it an attractive place to do business. I want to make sure that, that an organization, whether it's national or whether it's local, feels like they can grow in Riverside. And we can't just rely on the property owners to foot the bill for everything that we need done. We need income tax growth. And that's only going to come by, 2 minutes is up, that's only going to come by us bringing more jobs in. And that's only going to come with a plan. So I think that there's a number of things the city of Riverside can be doing. First and foremost is getting better connected with the region, better connected with the county and the region as a whole to figure out where we fit in that marketplace. And I would love to be able to say a year from now that we didn't just tax the property owners more, that we found innovative ways to raise money, and that we were able to fix our infrastructure problems from growth, not by more taxes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Anderson?
So it's awesome to talk about what we can do to start and what we can do to stop things in our community. Harrison Township is such a beautiful place, but Harrison Township has a bad reputation and a bad name. Harrison Township is, every time you click on your local news station, there's something negative coming out of Harrison Township. It's a robbery, it's a shooting, it's drug violence. That's something that we need to work on, is changing the narrative of our township. How can you expect people to come into our neighborhoods and invest in our neighborhoods, buy houses, if your next door neighbor is selling drugs? And I'm keeping up my house. I'm maintaining the yards. I'm making sure that I'm following the city ordinance, and I'm doing everything that's needed. But if we're not standing up for our residents and we're not flushing out the bad things that are contribute to what makes Harrison Township looks bad, Harrison Township is surrounded by many parks, such as the Sinclair Park that was recently destroyed by the tornado, Wiggerson Garden, many different places. Now it's time to open that dialogue with our residents and our county officials to say, hey, we want to make Harrison Township attractive so more people can come and live here, more people invest and buy property. So let's changing the narrative on and the identity of Harrison Township.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Okay, so the question is, what will we stop, start, and change? Well, as a Dayton Public School Board member, I'd like to stop operating under the current status quo that we do. I think that we have to stop the lack of transparency that we have. We have to stop having parents wonder why principals that have been doing well are gone, teachers that have been doing well are gone. And the way we do that is start changing the culture that we have. And to be honest, in Dayton Public Schools, we have a toxic culture. And part of that culture is the fact that we have a us versus them mentality. We have to stop that. There's too many people in Dayton that are in other jurisdictions now because of our school district. There are people that have lived in Dayton that have sold their houses to get an apartment in Riverside, that have sold their houses to get an apartment in Huber Heights. Why? Because they feel like they can get a better education. What I would want to start doing in Dayton is reaching out and actually showing that our school system is more than just the parents and the teachers and administrators. It's the community, the people that pay property taxes, the people that invest in our communities, the people that are working in the schools, the people that are living in our communities. We all are Dayton Public Schools. The only way to do that is change the way we engage with people. Far too long it has been a we, as the board, tell the community what's going on and you take it or leave it. And we can't have that. I won't stand for that. As a parent of 2 children, one that has had special needs, I've been a fighter. I've been there when my son comes home and says, you know, a child was picking on me, and I say, why didn't you tell your aide? And he says, there wasn't an aide. And I say, okay, well, I didn't get a call. Why didn't I understand something? And then we reach out. And then, unfortunately, there are many parents who do not have those same resources and the time to get out there and reach out. So we have to stop that. And the other thing that I want to start is start getting back to what Dayton does. I live in a city that has a history of innovation, a history of music genius, and we're teaching students to do none of these things. So we cannot be as strong as we can be if we're not teaching our students how to be innovative entrepreneurs as well, giving them a cultural competency and a core base of learning themselves. So we need these extracurriculars in our schools. We need these things that, frankly, other students in other districts get that our students don't get and our students deserve. And as a school board member, I will be a fighter to make sure we get that and our families and our community understand what's going on, why we're doing it, and they know that they're a part of what's moving forward in Dayton. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pickett?
My experience as a researcher, as a parent, and as an activist had led me to conclude that the most important factor for improving academic achievement is positive relationships. And if we rely on substitute teachers the way we do, we will never be able to build those relationships. Therefore, we need to make sure that we take care of our teachers. We need to retain the good teachers that we have by making our salaries competitive and hiring more teachers and teacher aides. And yes, that costs money. Therefore, we need to make sure that we're looking at the budget and that we are very carefully looking where the money is going so that we can spend that money wisely. Beautiful buildings mean absolutely nothing if we don't have competent personnel. And lastly, I think that we also need to improve the relationships. There is a toxic culture, like Mr. Smith mentioned, and we need to make sure that all the stakeholders, meaning administrators, teachers, students, and parents, are all getting along and are able to have conversations without fear of retaliation. Because at the end, I think we all need to understand that the students should be at the center of the learning process. And everything that we do, everything that is discussed needs to be aiming at improving the education of our children.
Thank you. Ms. Draper?
So one of the things we have to stop doing as the city of Inglewood, especially when we have over 25 vacant buildings, is making ridiculous zoning codes that detract businesses from the area. I give an example. I've talked to a local business leader where it's $250 a month to put up a sign, and if any business wants to put like a little chalkboard up saying what their specials are, that's another $150 a month. So that's got to change to be more business friendly, and once we become more business friendly in our zoning, more businesses will want to come to the city and want to stay in the city. Many have closed because of the zoning. Something we have to stop for sure is the nepotism. In the city of Inglewood, we have an in-law, and we have a pair of in-laws serving on the council now, and we have a husband and wife duo running for mayor and council. And they're not telling anyone about this. They're not putting this in the papers. They're not letting residents know, hey, we're related when they go to the doors together. They're not doing that. So when you have questions about what's going on with the city, you have to, in a way, ask both of them. Or if you don't ask one of them, you have to wait for the response for the other one to say if it's okay. So that's got to stop, and that's got to be a new voice in the city. Other than that, we are one of the only cities, something we have to start doing is transparency. Like I mentioned, we're one of the only cities in the county that don't record our council sessions, and that can easily be solved with a cell phone. And once that's started and the transparency is there, our city will continue to grow.
Thank you. Mr. Hutto?
Excellent. Thank you. I will start by saying that I think one of the things that I've been a part of starting since I've been on council is the interactive communication between residents and city council members. The majority of our members of city council do not reach out, do not come to the public for information or to find out what they're interested in or what they're looking for. At a recent council meeting, I had brought up the fact that we are representatives for the people of Huber Heights. Our mayor responded that we are not representatives, we are legislators. I think that's a poor attitude to take, and I think without communication with our residents, we don't know what direction they want to go or what they expect from our city. That's very important to me. I plan to continue to do that. One of the things I like to see stop, and as much as it's a good thing, our city has been highly focused for years on creating big new shiny things, which can be very good sometimes, but when you're allowing a greater portion of your city to go by the wayside and slip into decline because your full focus is on the new things and not what you already have, you're creating much bigger issues and unintended consequences that you just can't even expect to know how to deal with. So I think a bigger focus needs to be placed in our city on revitalization of the older portions of our city. We have plenty of brand new housing developments going up within our city, which are good, and those developers are doing a great job. I'm not looking to stop that. But I think the city's focus itself should be on the revitalization of the parts of our city that really need that. Another part of that revitalization, which I'd like to see continue, and I push very hard for, and we have gotten started, is investment in our parks system. We have placed extra money into our park system, improved some of our playground equipment, things of that nature to serve a larger portion of our residents, including those who are disabled or have learning disabilities. We've introduced all-inclusive play equipment. And additionally, we put additional monies into our infrastructure, into our street resurfacing programs and things of that nature. Again, those are the things I'd like to see continue and increase. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to change it up just a little bit. I've got questions. Anybody who wants to answer, just raise your hand. I'll call upon you. I've got some questions that are going to be specific for some of the positions you're going to be running for. So, this is sort of a broad one for anybody. What steps will you take to attract money or business into your community? What steps will you take to attract money or business into your community? Mr. Anderson?
Beautification of our city, it has to look attractive, number one, for people to want to invest into our community. Starting projects, bringing in citizens to determine what they want their township or city to look like. We can always talk about economic development, but if we're not taking care of our local mom and pop businesses that we have currently and supporting them, then what do you have? Like, for example, Harrison Township was just announced that we're losing our Kroger's. That's a whole big company that's leaving our township. Now, can you say that our government, our local government, could have prevented that? Yes and no. Companies are going to make the decisions. Corporations are going to make the decisions of what they want to do. But if you keep that constant open dialogue with them and say, hey, what do we need to do to make you safe in our township? What are certain things that you would like to see? Is it tax incentives? Is it more security at the grocery store? What? But you have to make it attractive for people to come in.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Zarate?
I already talked about, changing the crazy property tax thing, but let's be real here. We've been rearranging deck chairs in Montgomery County for a long time, and Greene County as well. Moving businesses from downtown Dayton to Austin Landing or the Pentagon Parkway is not economic development, and it's not helping any of us. We're going to lose a congressional seat in Ohio. People are not moving to Ohio, and that is a problem. The only way this state is going to wake up and be competitive is if we start solving some of the bigger problems, and that's not something any of us at this level can do other than keep talking to the next level up in government and talk about, look, we drew these 88 counties back in 1785, and you keep playing with the legislative maps and the voting districts. We need to take a look at the maps in where the people are living, because we can't have rural township government in the middle of an urban area. We can't have all this disparity. We can't have 28 different taxing authorities for income tax. What business in their right mind wants to come to Montgomery County and have a heating and air business and have to figure out one day they're in Beaver Creek, so they don't pay any income tax, and the next day they're in Dayton, they do pay an income tax, and then they're in Austin Landing and they were working on the first floor or the third floor because it's different there depending on what floor you live on. This stuff has to go away. In fact, we have to take a look at how many fines we're handing out to small businesses for not meeting the structures that the state puts in place. Small businesses get fined, big businesses can pay people to make sure they don't take care of it. This whole system has been put out of whack because we haven't gone back to the drawing board and said, how do we make it right? And that's what we're going to need to do in Ohio, because it doesn't help to build up the cornerstone if you then have to pay for a water tower, does it? We have to get smart about development. We have to get smart about creating an environment businesses can operate in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to address that? Mr. Allen?
I'd just like to add, we hide behind the term economic development. And it's a broad term. We sometimes just throw it out there and say, hey, we're pushing economic development. You need to put some meat behind that. What are we doing? Let's get into the details of what we're doing to develop our city. So many of our cities have been around for a long time. Many of the rules, many of the codes, many of the laws, many of the statutory laws, some of those things have been around for a long time. So I agree with David that we have to shake the rug on that thing. You have to go back and review these codes and get them up to par so that we can make it a little bit easier. We've changed. We've changed since 1940. We've changed since 1920. We haven't touched them since 1960. We have to look at those things so that we can make it easier or a little bit more complimentary so that a business can come in, a family can move in, and then look at all the other pieces and parts. The schools. Look at the schools. I mean, so this is an 8-armed octopus when you start talking about how we're going to how we're going to develop a city, how we're going to increase our tax. It's hard. It's hard work. And bringing people to the table, collaborating, communicating, talking, that helps. Because the idea isn't going to come from 5 members on the council and the mayor. It's not. It's going to come from the citizens. And that's what we have to do. We have to communicate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me come down to this table. They're feeling left out. We'll get back there. Yes, Mr. Williams?
Okay, thank you. I definitely agree that sometimes we hide behind the term economic development, but I also think that we need to be more specific and thoughtful when we talk about ways that we can help business. I think some of the solutions are simple, but they're not easy. And I will agree with Mr. Ezrati that there are certain levels of bureaucracy in government where we make it very hard on small businesses to be successful. And I don't know if it's just us in Dayton or in Ohio or in the Midwest, but I was very fortunate to grow up in a household with a small business owner as a father. And I could see firsthand how much a decision like what it costs to put a sign out for a day or put a chalkboard out for an afternoon can really throw off what it is that you can what you can do to be successful. One of the things that I was able to be a part of when I worked in an economic development shop was something as simple as what we called a permit referral program. So if a new business permit came in at the county level, we would coordinate with the city, whether it was Beaver Creek, Fairborn, Xenia, Jamestown, etc., on the building inspection schedule. We would check in on the zoning requirements as the county development office, and then we would also coordinate with the local chamber of commerce. So we would let the business person know, big or small, that you're not in this all by yourself, and you don't have to wait on hold all day waiting for the building inspector to come in and tell you if your door's wide enough or if you're going to get cleared for an occupancy permit. And those are the kind of things that hold up small businesses, and a day off of a start date means time lost, and a week off is catastrophe. So I think as government officials, we can look for ways to make things easier. We should just pay lip service. We should find ways that we can cut steps out of this process. And I don't mean cutting corners. I mean making it more efficient for the small business who wants to open in any one of our cities, any one of our townships, to be able to go to one place and know that we're from the government and we are going to help. And we can actually show them how it works. I would get laughs when I tell people that too. And then they'd see me do it. And I would tell them, let me be on hold for half an hour with the building department while you're being successful at your business or you're getting your shop ready to open. And once we did that, we saw people in Greene County feel a lot better about the government. That's not always easy to do.
Okay. Mr. Otto?
I'm going to say when it comes to economic development, you're going to hear this as a common theme out of my mouth, but we need to first of all understand the needs and desires of our residents and our citizens within our communities. I think that one of the biggest issues that Huber Heights has and has had for quite a long period of time is the fact that we tend to sit back on our haunches and wait for business to come to us instead of actively getting out, speaking with residents, speaking with our citizens, and finding out what it is that they want and desire. I travel the country quite a bit with other organizations, and I see things within other communities that I know our residents would like to see. We need to actually be proactively reaching out to those types of businesses and organizations that can provide those things that our residents want, to find out how they've accomplished these things, how they've been able to move forward on these types of projects and try to implement those in our own ways. Again, sitting back and waiting for business is just not a good business strategy, and it certainly is an economic development. We have to be proactive in reaching out to those businesses to bring what we want to our communities to serve our residents.
Okay, back down to this side. Ms. Turner?
Yes, thank you. A very important question. So 3 things as the next City of Dayton Commissioner that I will propose. The first is, I agree with Mr. Anderson. We definitely have to make the City of Dayton attractive. Not only attractive to outside developers and investors, but to our residents. For those who live in the City of Dayton, to want to stay in the City of Dayton and to want to, in fact, invest in their homes or their properties. The second thing that we need to do is, we have a natural resource in the City of Dayton, and that is the aquifer, the fact that we sit on the aquifer. So we need to make sure that we are progressively advocating for the use for future development, as well as other business avenues for potential development to take place in the City of Dayton by us having the natural resource of the aquifer. The third and last thing that I would do, and I agree as well, is that we need to make it friendly for other potential business owners, having those processes streamlined. Again, it goes back to my initial statement about clear processes, accountability, and transparency, that when you in fact want to perhaps pull a permit, that you have someone that is readily available to assist you in that process, and you're not on hold, or you're not sent to go to this building or that building, that you are able to get the tools and the resources that you need. And that comes in fact with, again, making sure the city staff have the tools and the resources that they need, so that they're able to answer the call for future development and whatever avenues that potentially may be on the surface for other residents in the community, potentially starting new businesses in the City of Dayton. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question is for, are you two my only school board candidates, right? Yeah, okay. School board question, and it's really a sort of a 2-part question. how are you going to empower teachers to really teach students and not teach for just taking a test? And then the second part of that is, how can other people, engineers, entrepreneurs from outside of Dayton help Dayton's school system? Ms. Pickett?
Okay, how are we going to empower our teachers? Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we have a good relationship with our teachers. And we actually need to have teachers. We are losing our teachers, and that's a big problem that we have. And so in order for us to be able to help the teachers to do their job, we need to make sure that we're taking care of them. And we also need to have classrooms that are small. Like right now, the ratio should be 1 teacher for every 20 students. And if we're not having that, it's going to be very difficult for the teachers to actually get to work with the students. The test, well, that's a whole other beast, right? That's something that comes from above, and we have to follow the Common Core, unfortunately.
No, you don't.
But you know, we can. The way it's delivered in the classroom, it's to a certain degree up to the teacher. They have a certain leeway, but again, we need to make sure that they have less than 20 students, 20 or less, and that they actually know the students and they actually have a relationship with them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith?
That is a fairly loaded question, but I'm happy to tackle it. One, we have to understand that there's biases involved in these state tests. We have to also understand that these state tests don't measure the academic success of our students. And another thing that we have to understand is that when we're trying to teach to these tests, we're pulling ourselves back. I grew up in an era in Dayton Public Schools where I was able to be in a gifted program. I was able to start learning how to play saxophone from the 4th grade on. I was able to be in programs, chess programs, and things like that, that actually opened up my mind and let me see the future that I could have. What we have to do is start understanding that we have to get a better relationship with our teachers, students, and parents, and as well as our administrators. We have to allow our teachers to teach by making sure that we're covering some of the other things. Some of the things that are going on right now in my school district, you have schools where there's fights daily, and serious fights. Teachers can't teach in those kind of situations. But then you look at the schools and there's a lack of resources around there. There's a lack of counselors. There's a lack of restorative justice procedures. There's a lack of people in the building that the students can look to when they have these kind of situations. So we have to make sure that we surround our teachers with all the tools necessary to be able to teach. Teachers have to be able to do what they've been doing, instructed to do. And another thing is we have to stop this authority that comes down from the top. There's too much meddling. I'll be honest. There's too much meddling from administration inside our buildings, and we have to give our teachers in the buildings the autonomy to do what they can do. And as, to the point of the question around what can people outside do, well, that's something we have to work on as a district. We've not been inviting to other people. We've been inviting to family and friends of some people. We've been inviting to certain people, but we haven't been inviting to the collective genius that we have in our community. So that's what we have to do, and that's what I will pledge to do as a school board member, is to reach out, and I know that this community has people that can help. So we have to get out there, and that's another tool for our teachers. So we have to find these things, find the people that want to help out with Dayton Public Schools, let them learn what we need them to do. And that comes with engagement. Too many times we tell people this is how they can be engaged. We tell them, hey, come to, parent-teacher conferences. Come in when we have this. Come in when we have that. We don't get out in the community and say, what can you do to help us? How can we help you to help us? And that's what we need to do. So those are the things that we can do. And if we do more of those things, it opens up time for real instruction instead of teaching to a test that does nothing except let us down. Thank you.
Okay. All right. This is for my 2 Dayton Commission candidates. What can the city government of Dayton do to support and rehab and redevelop, this is what we do, of the inner ring residential areas? How can they help us rehab and redevelop the neighborhoods?
Inner ring or outer ring?
The inner ring, not downtown. Not downtown.
Hold on, because
the next
inner ring, what at one point was considered Kettering
Riverside.
No, I'm talking city of Dayton.
So we're talking in the city.
In the city.
And we're talking inner ring, which is historic districts pretty much. And then the
Oh.
outer ring is the rest of the community.
Anything outside of downtown Dayton?
Anything outside of
Okay,
Dayton.
outside of downtown.
Outside of
Okay.
downtown. What can the city help us do to make us want to rehab, redevelop properties?
And she says us, we're real estate investors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got that. You want to go first? You want me to?
Shall we flip a coin?
Go ahead. As someone who's actually rehabbed some buildings, I can tell you, it's not that easy in the city of Dayton. It's not easy to work with the plan board. It's not easy to work with architectural, the historic people. It's not easy to work with the zoning, the building code people, and it's gotten really kind of ridiculous at the types of things they had me jump through when I did mine. I had inspectors come in and tell me that we'd done things wrong, and you know, it was almost insulting. And the reality is we have to stop working with people like adversaries, but work with them as our partners. Because this city isn't going to get any better just on its own or doing things the way we've done them. So when you come to me and you've bought a property and you want to do a rehab plan, I want to sit down and say, what can I do to help you? Number one. Number two, what can the city provide you with in order to help you with this? How are we going to address the property values around you if you're going to make this investment? And realistically, I really want to start talking to people about a couple things that I think can make a huge difference. One is eliminating permit fees in neighborhoods where the vacancy rate is over a certain percentage. Like if it's over 50%, you're not paying any fees, period. That's it. Number two, if there are any properties that they've been doing this lot links program for a long time, next door or whatever else, or that are zombie properties, we're going to start enforcing the laws on your neighbors to make sure that they bring theirs up to snuff as you're doing your investment. If they aren't fixing it up, and you are, we're going to make sure that they either do or have help in doing it, or they turn the properties over. Because it doesn't do any good for people to sit there and have things drag down the values of the neighborhood and then cash in when you've done all the work. There's got to be some sort of, you've got to have skin in the game. So right now, it's a mess. It's not working. And I'd like to fix that. I'd like to do what we've done in South Park, and I think there's ways to help move those things in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Turner?
Yes. So actually, I'm going to come with a different approach. Everyone, I'm sure, is probably familiar with the obstacles and the challenges we have in the city of Dayton. We have over 6,000 to 7,000 vacant structures in the city of Dayton. And I know I'm before the Investors Association, but I think the biggest thing that we need to do in terms of how the city commission can help this particular organization is that we have to work together. It has to honestly be a working relationship in which we're identifying how we best can present opportunities and what potential development that we can create together. Because what the city of Dayton is currently experiencing right now is people have used the city of Dayton as another episode of Flip This House. And quite honestly, that is where we are in the city of Dayton. We have a number of out-of-town investors who have literally used the lot lease program as a means to, again, to grab batches of property, and they're sitting on these properties, and then when it comes time for maintenance or there comes time to a number of housing violations, there's no one to pinpoint or to identify to hold accountable because of them using the city of Dayton again as another episode of Flip This House. So I think it's an opportunity for us to have a dialogue, for us to have a conversation on how we best can work together so that we can stop using the city of Dayton and abusing the city of Dayton. We have, again, a number of vacant properties. There is a 34.5% poverty rate in the city of Dayton. People are struggling in the city of Dayton, and quite honestly, we need decent, affordable housing. I'll be happy to have that conversation with you. I'll be happy to sit down and come into play with agreements that can really truly hold not only you accountable, but our city government accountable as well, because we need each other to make sure, again, that we have decent, affordable housing for the residents in the city of Dayton. We have an income of $27,000, $28,000. Many of the residents in the city of Dayton, they might necessarily have an interest of home ownership, but they do want to identify somewhere that is decent and somewhere that is safe and that can provide them with the decent quality of life that every resident deserves, regardless of their skin color or their economic status. So I'll be happy to work with anyone on that. Thank you.
Just for your information.
Yes.
An absentee landlord.
Yes.
I can own the house next door,
Yes.
and I'm considered an absentee landlord. Even though I am 20 feet away. That is Dayton's definition of an absentee landlord.
That's not my definition of that.
Well, but that's
My
Dayton's.
definition of an absentee landlord is someone that we cannot physically contact and hold them accountable or responsible for the maintenance of that property, in which the city of Dayton has literally been used as a dumping ground, not only for absentee landlords, but for all other illicit behavior. And it's time to change that. We really have to change how we do business, and we really have to make sure that people understand that city is not a catch-one-be-all, that we too want to raise our property values as Beaver Creek.
Right, no problem. I was dumbfounded when I was considered an absentee landlord.
We're going to have to look into that. Give me your address, I can run past.
Okay, but speaking, and you were talking about safe neighborhoods, the next question is about safety. I'm concerned about the safety in my town. The public safety officers don't have the support that they need. Remember, they leave every day not knowing if they're going to come home that night. And how can we better support them, or you in your specific areas?
This is for everybody?
Anybody?
Anybody raise your hand? We'll go.
Just open, just a minute. Mr. Allen?
Safety for Fairborn I feel we have one of the safest communities in the region. I really do. The issue that we need to concern ourselves with for our city is our growth. As we continue to grow, we have to look forward. We have to be prepared for the growth spurt. We have to be prepared for more firefighters. We have to be prepared to bring on more policemen. But for us, the Fairborn community, we do a pretty good job. But there are some challenges out there. Drugs are going to continue to be a challenge. We have to fight that, but we can't just depend on the police force to fight that. If you see a crime, you need to report a crime. And I think that goes for everyone here. If you see something, you have to say something. So, thank you very much.
Mr. Ezerati?
So if you look on my campaign literature, which is outside, there are two issues that I've addressed as my top 5. One is the Montgomery County Jail is not safe for habitation. Right now, we have people going in for minor misdemeanors and dying or getting maimed. We've spent over $12 million settling lawsuits. That is unacceptable. It's not fair to any citizen to go in who is innocent until proven guilty into a jail that is not safe. Now, the other problem that I talked about is the rise of the private police force. It seems that only rich institutions now are deserving of police protection, and the rest of us have to fare with substandard police force care. And I mean, you've got, since I moved to Dayton, we've seen a drop in officers from over 500 to around 300, while we've seen UD, Premier, Kettering Health, Sinclair, Metro Parks, Wright State, all these people have private police forces. And I say that after the shooting of Samuel DuBose in Cincinnati by a Cincinnati police officer, who wasn't under anybody who you voted for. That should have been the end of these private police forces. We need, if you want to have a police officer for UD or this Premier Health, you hire a Dayton officer and you pay for it. You don't get to hire your own and have a private army. That has to stop. A UD police officer doesn't have to take who they pick up to jail and let the prosecutor do it. They can take it back to their own little private police force and decide whether they're going to charge or not. That is not the American way, and it's causing problems. We have to have less police chiefs, less police forces that are accountable to somebody we elect. It's time to address this issue, and I say the number one thing that made a difference in South Park is Premier paid for 2 community-based police officers who were Dayton officers for almost 20 years, and that was a huge help. But remember, they were protecting their property, not mine. That was why they did it. We need to fix this. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Smith?
Yes, I know it might not seem like a question for a school board candidate, but yes, it is actually. Why? Because safety also begins in our schools. One of the things that we have to realize is that there's data that shows that there's a direct correlation between our prison population and our reading scores, even for our smallest children. As a school board member, I want to make sure that we're doing the things at a young age to benefit not only our children, but their families. We have to also make sure that we're looking at restorative justice procedures. We have to make sure that we're making sure that we're looking at mediation practices for our children. Why? Because I've seen what happens. We have children that are bringing the trauma from their homes into our schools. And then they're taking the trauma that continues from their schools back into the neighborhoods. As a school board member, I would want to work with our commission to look at things that we need to work on, namely the roots of violence. A lot of times we talk about violence as an abstract, and we talk about violence and how can we do better and work with law enforcement, when honestly we don't look at what the roots are. A lack of education, a lack of investment, poverty, the lack of resources. You can look and see a direct correlation to violence with poverty, violence with reading scores, violence to jobs, violence to access to resources. As a school board member, I would want to be out in my community making sure we're doing these things, because that's the only way we can help our law enforcement, is if we work on these root causes. And that's how I want to help with that kind of situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Sham, I understand that somebody snuck in our back door very quietly. You want to introduce our new guest?
Folks, we have Niraj Antani here, our state rep, and soon be running for the Senate. He said he would stop by, and he kept his promise. Thank you.
Thank you. He comes to all our picnics and comes to our meetings relatively often. We enjoyed that. Thank you. Thank you for keeping tabs on us. Ms. Draper, I have a question for you. When would Inglewood stop their pre-sale inspections like Huber Heights did?
As soon as possible. I don't think that's very effective, first of all, or not effective. I think it's pre-sale, so it's not effective and it's not business friendly.
It's pre-sale, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, I think at any point with businesses in Inglewood, it has to be, how are we making the business, how are we helping businesses in the area, not necessarily how are we helping the few businesses in the area that are owned by, you know, the council person or owned by the council person's brother. That's a big problem in the city. So just being more business friendly.
Well, this is more residential.
Oh, this is residential. Oh.
Residential pre-sale. I can't sell my house until Inglewood comes and checks it out and blesses it.
Not heard that as an issue from many of my colleagues. However, I think inspection from people in general is needed just so the safety concerns are met. As a property owner myself, I think that's important to, especially when renters come and go. If there's a property concern, it gets around. If there's an issue with an inspection, it gets around, and that doesn't help anyone, especially if you own the property. But at the same time, we have to make sure we do it effectively and make sure that the businesses in the air, or the property owner is in the loop with what's going on, because as of right now, I know they're not.
Okay.
I just want to add a comment. The reason it keeps coming up is these days, 90 to 95% of the buyers that are buying property through an agent have their inspections done. Interior, exterior, basement, roof, everything else. So there was a time when the cities cared more about their properties and the buyers were not doing the inspections. But in these times, there is no need for that. That's all.
Can I make a comment, answer a question?
Sure.
What really gets me more than anything is we've got property all over the city. They can come along and just because you got a little chip in the sidewalk or curb, they replace it. It's going to cost me $1,000 for curbing. This is the third time on my house. For what? When they go down here, down at the 70 bypass there and tear that up and put bricks down 4 or 5 times. And they want me to keep buying property there? You're driving us out. I mean, it's that and the home inspections. You know, when's this going to stop? You're losing investors left and right.
And I see that.
And then you talk to downtown, they don't even talk to you. I had him come out, he couldn't explain why they do it. They got a guy, they got a concrete guy, goes around by himself. A concrete company that doing the concrete work is the one marking the sidewalk. Now that is a crock of crap.
That's a great contract.
How much you're making in your pocket? Sorry, but I had to ask that question.
That's okay. That's all right. This is sort of an off-the-wall question. I don't know quite how you all would handle it from your different positions. Talking about safety with school bus stopping. How do you monitor? How do you teach people your
I didn't answer that.
constituents?
And check with a trap guy caught with a traffic ticket, but I used to write.
But how do you make motors stop for school buses? Know what is the proper protocol for school bus safety?
I would say we're back to communication again. I introduced an app in the city of Huber Heights with a mobile phone application that should be online soon, I hope, that would allow residents to receive and give information to the city. That would be a good tool for the city to put out notifications, educational pieces along these lines. In addition, we have just a lot of other avenues that we can approach. In this day of social media, we have almost instant access to all of our residents, and they're pretty active out there. We need to utilize those tools, even the older tools we have, like city newsletters. We don't really use those as much as we should anymore, I don't think. But using those types of pieces simply to inform and communicate our residents, or communicate with our residents.
I don't, Mr. Azarelli, but do the schools teach that in like driver's education?
Schools teach driver's education.
Oh, they don't teach driver's education.
They can.
The only place that you would.
Now, she's a school bus driver.
Yeah, there you go.
And this is my question. I had 7 people this week run my red lights on my bus. It's only Wednesday. I drive for Pickwell. It's a town. Yeah. So the only place you see it on a regular basis is when you get new license plates on that little piece of plastic. What can we do about that? I mean, their kids get killed every single day, or not day, but every year. I mean, there were 3 of them in Indiana last year. Like a 3-week period, there were like 10 kids killed because people don't stop and they're on their driving around and you're like honking your horn and you're pointing out your window and. Short of throwing stop sticks out there, what do we do? That would be really cool though.
That would be fun.
Niraj wants to say something.
So it's actually, I mean, it's a state law, right? So
Yes.
local officials really,
10 feet
can't
from each bumper.
do anything, right? So there are 3 bills right now. One of them is mine. The smartest idea and the most practical is probably going to be to hopefully equip every school bus with a camera.
I have cameras.
And then you do. So right now, they cannot be used as evidence in a criminal trial.
Correct.
So there's a bill to allow a camera on a school bus that is government property to be used as evidence against someone.
But sometimes, like, 3 of the runners we're in the morning and it's pitch
You
black.
can't see. Interesting.
And you can't see.
Okay.
You know, I gotta watch my kids. I'm
It's
holding
good to
my
know.
kids with a hand
Right.
signal so they don't get killed.
Yeah.
And these people are flying by.
Yeah, okay, good to know.
You know.
Thanks.
You just, yeah, I can't.
Have you found that to be more on your rural back roads versus?
I run all over the place. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Piqua, but like Sunset Avenue, Covington Avenue, and South Street. They're main streets. There's dozens of bus stops on those streets, and every day they don't care. They just don't care.
They got kicked the fine up where where it starts costing them
Well,
big bucks.
and the problem is, even if I get the number and I write it down, and I get a description and I turn it in.
But you gotta remember, I'm an ex-cop. Our hands are tied.
Right, because they come and they'll go talk to them and they'll say, it wasn't me. And now there's nothing they can do because they lied their way out of it.
Okay. Mr. Israedi?
So even though I'm not running for school board, Dayton has a real problem with our busing anyways.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a disaster, and part of the problem is our streets aren't even built for school buses to go through them. So, there's a video up, it's called There Ain't No F in Dayton. I have to say that slowly, or you might. But it talks about how to reimagine our schools. And part of it was a reimagined transportation plan, because kids in one neighborhood don't all go to the same school. It's not like when you and I grew up where we went to school with the same kids and everything. So, and part of the problem is we have buses coming through a neighborhood, 3 or 4 different bell schedules. And it's just way too much traffic on the side roads. It's way too many cars that they end up hitting and trying to speed up and slow down. It's not working. So what I proposed was each neighborhood has a designated bus stop where the kids walk to, because it's not going to kill you to walk a little bit to the school bus stop.
Tell that to the parent.
Number 2, there would be a community member who is hired by the district to stand there and check the kids in on a smart device that they're here for the bus before the bus even gets here. And if they're not here, they're already making calls, where's little Johnny? So then they get on the bus and they ride the bus to sometimes right to their school or to another school or another pickup point in a hub and spoke system where they get picked up to go to their final destination. It makes all the sense in the world. However, nobody thinks about these things, and somehow we seem to think that kids can't walk. And that's part of the problem with childhood obesity, and it's part of the responsibility, and the kids don't get to know each other unless they're on the bus together going to one place. It's not working. We need a different approach to transporting students in the inner city, and we need to do something about it really soon, because it's not sane. And along the same lines, I also have a proposal to make RTA free by paying for the less than 10% of the revenue that comes through the fare box by putting advertising back on the buses. Because I think that's economic development from the bottom up, helping the poorest people be able to get to doctor's offices, to grocery stores, and everything else. And we already pay for RTA. We pay through it through a sales tax, and we pay through it through federal taxes. There is no reason to put a toll booth on a public bus and stop the poorest people from using it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I hate to stand in front of people, but I don't like to squeal either. Like to have you all do a closing statement.
1 minute.
1 minute?
1 minute!
Mr. Israedi, can you do that? All right, Mr. Otto.
I'll actually be brief. I just want to thank you guys for having us out tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak. I really like the ability to listen to others' comments and information as well. It certainly brings about lots of ideas for me. I really don't have much other than that, but thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Draper?
Echoing Mr. Otto's comments, thanks for having us. Biggest concern is going to be a new voice for the city of Inglewood and helping solve the biggest problems like the vacant buildings, and working with our land bank and working with people to bring businesses in the area. It's not just going to happen on its own, but we have to work together with resources that can help. I'm also wanting to be available for all residents. We're one of the only cities that don't record our council sessions. Our last Twitter post was in 2011, and I think that needs some working on. So being transparent, working with residents, and solving our biggest issues are my biggest concerns for Inglewood.
Ms. Pickett?
Well, I'm hoping that I have the opportunity to become a board member, because I've been fighting and arguing with the board for many, many years, and I've been trying to help our community. And in our conversations, I've been able to see that when I talk about the community, this is like one world, and when they talk about the way they think things are running, it's very different. And so I'm hoping that I'm able to bring that perspective from parents that have children with disabilities, or English learners, or students with interrupted education.
First, I want to say thank you for everyone who's here. Thank you for everyone who put this together. I also want to say thank you for you being a bus driver. I've seen some of the things you go through. As having a child with autism, I see the way just having his bus driver there and greeting with a fist bump starts his day going. I also see kids that do ride the bus in the dark on the streets with no sidewalks. And so I understand that. But I also want everyone here, if you aren't in Dayton, if you are in Dayton, please reach out to voters in Dayton. We really need to change what we're doing. And when I say change what we're doing, it's as a whole culture. Right now, our school board operates as almost an arm of what our superintendent does. We have to realize that the school board sets the tone for our district. We set the tone and lay out what we need our superintendent to do. What do we need our treasurer to do? We also want to work more with our community. We have to understand that our community has resources. I know this because before I wanted to go in on the board, I went before people in the district and said, you know, I'm from this district. I do community work in this district. And I was turned down when I said I have plans that could help people in these schools. I wanted to go work and volunteer in these schools. We can't turn people away that want to help. I want more transparency. I want accountability. People want to know what's going on. We have to really engage people where we are. I want the same parent. I want a parent that, you know, can go to the school at noon and give cookies and cupcakes on a break to feel just as engaged as a parent that, you know, works second or third shift and can only communicate through email or through chat groups with other friends and family members or other parents. We have to understand that those parents are just as engaged. We have to understand that, yes, we have, you know, things that hurt people. We have barriers to learning in Dayton, Ohio. But I will refuse to ever sit back and tell a child they can't deserve an education because they're poor. I refuse to tell a parent your child doesn't deserve an education because they're poor. I want to work through these things. We have a collective genius that we have to tap into. We have to do the things that we can do. We need fiscal responsibility. Yes, we have limited resources, but we can't be foolish with those limited resources as we have been in the past. So I want everyone out there to reach out to people in Dayton, let them know that Will Smith is running for Dayton Public School Board, and I want to be a change, and I want the community to come along with me, because Dayton is only as strong as our schools. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Anderson?
Going through the many obstacles in life and realizing that if you want to get something done, then sometimes you have to go out and do it yourself. My desire for running for Harrison Township Trustee is to improve the quality of life for all residents and to shorten equality for everyone. There's been so many things that happened to our township in the past few months. Now it's time for the people's voice to be heard. We've been going on for the same momentum for over 20 years. A township is very significant, is very special, because that's where the residents say, hey, we want to control what happens here in our township. So if we have a township, not a city, then if the people are not controlling what happens in this township, then what are we here for? What are we doing? Are we working for the people? So encourage your neighbors, encourage your friends to go out and vote November 5th. It doesn't have to be for me, but it's someone up here who's making a great impact and who wants to make a change for your community. So remember, November 5th, my name is Craig Anderson, and I'm running for Harrison Township Trustee.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you. And thanks to the candidates, this has really been a great event, and it's opened my eyes, certainly, and it's great to hear the perspectives. And it's great to live in a place where we can have these discussions. So thank you to my fellow candidates, and thank you to everybody who's been here tonight. Some of the themes that continue throughout the evening are the need for change and the stagnancy that some communities are suffering from. My city, the city of Riverside, turns 25 January 1st of 2020. It became a merged township with the village of Riverside in 1995. And we've had largely the same leadership in those 25 years. I would argue that Riverside is far too important to the county, region, and state, being the front door to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the 2 access points from Area B, for it to not be a vibrant place and a place where people feel welcome to do business and where our federal government feels they can make investments in our national security that matter. So in Riverside, we need a mayor with the experience and network to bring growth to this city. As mayor, I'll prioritize development efforts working directly with the state, working directly with regional partners in the county, at the DDC, at Jobs Ohio, at MBRPC, and at ODOT to give us the resources that we need. I want to improve upon the quality of life of our citizens, and I want to capitalize and leverage the assets, locations, and people that make Riverside great. So I want to work for Riverside first and put Riverside first. And on November 5th, I ask for your vote, but I'll echo Craig's message and make sure you vote, period. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Stone?
Yes, and I would like to thank the Greater Dayton Real Estate Investors Association as well. Over the years, I have turned a few properties myself, and it can be fun as well as profitable. But communication, you've heard it all up and down the road. It's communication, and that's one of the hardest things to do as an elected official. And so what I've always, for instance, a thing that we do, Riverside Mayor, Xenia Mayor, Fairborn Mayor, Beaver Creek Mayor, we get together once a month for lunch. We all surround Wright-Patterson, and so we get together just for one thing. We don't have an agenda. We do that to communicate. And so if we know what the neighbor's doing, it certainly makes a difference. You know, and as an elected official, you need to be willing to get out. I don't care if it's the Hindu temple that invites you, or if it's the Moose Lodge or the VFW. Get out and talk to these people when they invite you and answer their questions. So that said, I would encourage that your organization to maybe consider having a sit down like this after the election and talk to the people that are in those offices, not just the ones who happen to be running, and maybe everybody here will be in those offices, but you know, if you've got somebody that is going to be in an office for the next 3 or 4 years, I think that's where you need to get some answers. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fawn?
Yes, as mayor of Beaver Creek, I would strive to build a team of engaged city council members who are actively communicating with everybody, just like that's such an important thing for business retention and expansion. It's communication. You need to talk with the businesses that are there, find out what their needs are. We have a strong Chamber of Commerce in Beaver Creek, but the city also needs to be a partner and make businesses and residents feel like they are welcome and needed and need to be there. The most important thing that we need to do is have a plan of action. I told you that we have a huge backlog of unpaid capital improvements, and we really need to have a plan of action. We need to define what we want Beaver Creek to be in the future, if we want it to deteriorate from where it is, or if we want to preserve the neighborhoods and keep the quality of city that we've enjoyed. And we need to have a plan of action to make that happen. And I would welcome the opportunity to work with the new city council members and the community and the business community and pull that together and figure out where we're going to go.
Thank you. Mr. Bales?
I echo everyone up here. Thank you very much. The questions tonight have been enlightening because I've gotten a chance to hear from a lot of other communities that I don't routinely interact with. I thought there was some fantastic questions that weren't directed toward me, but perhaps I could even give a little closing flavor on my thoughts. I am not in favor of mandatory pre-sale inspections, but I do believe that buyers need to do their due diligence, and with a great quality realtor, they should guide them in that direction. I'm not in favor of a rental registration program, but I do believe in property code standards that need to be uniformly carried out throughout the community. So I have an issues card about everything that I stand for, and I encourage you to do your research. I want to thank you for having us and really becoming informed about the candidates and issues that are going to be on the ballot soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kern?
Again, I would echo what everybody else has said here. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having us. And I look forward to working for the citizens of Beaver Creek, bringing them together, working in the challenges that you've heard tonight. We have financial challenges, and we have economic challenges out there, and if I'm elected, working in those areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Durr?
I want Beaver Creek to be a proactive city and not a reactive city. To, in part, answer the question that was posed earlier on safety, Beaver Creek has 1.04 police officers per 1,000 citizens. According to the FBI metric of a city roughly our size, we should be somewhere between 1.4 and 1.5. It's not to say that we need to write a blank check, but to echo many up here, I want to listen. I want to make sure that our city remains on the front lines of being proactive. I think the same thing is due for our schools. And I also want to thank everyone up here because it's really useful for me to hear what's happening in the neighboring cities and communities. And so in closing, I'd like to thank the Greater Dayton Real Estate Investors Association for having us all and for hearing all of your opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
I'd like to first thank the Greater Dayton Real Estate Investors Association for inviting me. I was surprised to get the email and says, hey, you got an opportunity to sit and speak, and this opportunity has been awesome. Just to hear the concerns, to hear the responses from the other leaders here at this table. One of the things that someone said to me, hey, I heard you're running for a seat on the city council. I kind of felt bad because I don't want to consider that a seat. A seat conjures up in my mind sitting. I mean, and I don't want to sit. We got to do something. We have to do something, and we got to do it together. We can't do it in different parts of the room. We have to do it together. We have to come to the table. The theme here has been communicate. Let's continue to communicate. That's how we can do better at our taxes, be fiscally responsible, do better in our schools, do better with our kids. So let's do better. That's what I'm charged with. I'm charged to do better. 28 years in the Air Force, I ended up as the wing command chief for the wing out here. Senior enlisted advisor for some old heads who may see it as that, but the top enlisted person on the base. So I know what it takes to lead. I know what it takes to bring a team together. I know what it takes to collaborate. I know what it takes to communicate. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity. One of the things that I know all of us here at this table, I just want to leave you with this. Suicide and mental illness is a serious problem in this country. In the state, in our cities. Let's pay attention. Let's care for people, and let's take care of people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Azarabi?
To me, you guys are the heroes in the room, okay? There's a lot of people, they don't know who to vote for, they don't know what the issues are, they don't know what's going on. So it's your job to go out and tell all your friends about what you learned tonight and to share with them things. Now, I gotta point out something. There's all these different government bodies. If you notice, there's not much left of the Dayton Daily News. TV does, if it bleeds, it leads. There isn't an investigative arm anymore to keep as a watchdog on these people. So you notice I always bring my own video camera to these things. I have a YouTube channel with tons of public meetings. I record them, I put them online. I have a blog, Azrardi.com. It's the most read political blog in town. I have to expose school board members who don't live in the district. And guess what? Nobody did anything about it. I am on a mission to inform people about what's going on in government and leadership in our community. I don't define Dayton as Montgomery County or Greene County. Dayton is bigger than that. And we have to stop splitting up into these little units, and we have to start coming together to have a solution. So I want you to go look at two websites. One is reconstructingdayton.org, which talks about all these municipalities and how much overhead they cost us. And then the second one is Ezrai.com, where you can find over 2,900 posts, videos, stories, things to help inform voters. And then tell your friends about it, and tell them to get involved and become citizen watchdogs, and to learn before they vote. Think before they vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank the Greater Dayton Real Estate Investors Association for hosting this evening. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shannon. And I also want to thank all of the candidates. Thank you for running. This is a huge undertaking. It's daunting, and it's very selfless. So thank you for your time and your commitment to your various areas. So let me just share this with you in closing. I am very passionate about the city of Dayton. This is not a ploy for me by any means. As I mentioned, I am a former city of Dayton employee. I work at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I am a loggie out there. I am deeply invested in the city of Dayton and continue to be. I am a mother, a wife, and I believe in the city of Dayton, and I know that we need to do things better than what we're currently doing. And I will tell you quite honestly, there are 4 candidates who are running and 2 seats that are up. Notice who's here.
Yeah.
And so I challenge you to be intentional this election cycle and to encourage your friends and family members to do so as well. I have some information I will be glad to share with each and every one of you and encourage you to visit my website, ShaniceForDayton.com. And again, we really have to make some changes in the city of Dayton, not just for the city of Dayton, but for the region as a whole. And I can promise you this as well. If I'm elected, when I am elected as the next City of Dayton Commissioner, I will be reaching out to each and every one of you so that we can build those partnerships. Because I'll tell you one thing, that road between Riverside and for the gate, yes, Springfield Street.
Is that it? It's Springfield Street. I can hardly tell that peanut butter brittle road.
There you go. We definitely have to work on that.
Yes,
but
we do.
Seriously,
Thank you.
It takes those collaborative efforts to work together to really move our region as a whole forward. Thank you for your time, and I really appreciate your consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, before everybody moves.
The one point to make, the 2 city commissioners, city Dayton, they have a commission meeting tonight, so they called me and expressed their regret. They said they'll try to be here, maybe the meeting is running late, so just thought I'd let you know.
Now, again, before you all move, I'm not used to doing this, and I overlooked part of my duties early in this meeting.
You did a fabulous job.
No. But I just, for GD RIA members, how many people here are going to go to the convention in 2 weeks? Good deal. For the people who aren't, we are part of the state organization. The state puts on a convention for real estate investors. It's probably the largest one in the country. We have about 800 to 1,000 people come for 4 days. We meet down at, this year, we're down at Great Wolf Lodge by Kings Island. So, and it's fabulously inexpensive. You'll have a wonderful time, and the best thing is you get to talk with other people who are doing what you're doing or want to do. So the networking, a 4-day networking thing all day long into the night, every night, don't pass it up. Don't pass it up. Now, for you all, our state legislative director would like to have a picture of you all. So could you all stand up against that wall so he can take a picture?
Representative, would you join?
Yeah, there you go.